How are you, Jay?
I'm doing great, brother. Hey, and one more. We got to plug another one.
What do you got?
We have announced the premiere of Ballers Season 2 right here in July 17th.
And are you on that first episode,
I am.
Jay?
I'm on it quite a bit. I got a couple. I got a couple fight scenes. I got a strip club scene. I'm like a real actor with the Emmys and the Oscars. I got some Tonys. I got a Nobel Peace Prize for it.
Yes.
Won a couple Grammys.
How much research did you need to do for that strip club scene, Jay?
Here's the thing, Rich. Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. I take my job very seriously.
Of course.
And the role I played was a great-looking Jewish reporter.
So you played Schefter? You played Schefter in this?
So I had to. No, he would have probably tried in the strip club scene.
I don't know how many he's been in his life, to be honest with you, Jay.
But it's, I really had to feel the role. I had, like a clear palette. I had to go in with this. I really do a lot of research on, being Jay Glazer. It was,
of course.
It was, and he's a very complicated individual, very complicated. A lot of personalities going on there.
Deep down, though, a heart of gold, as we all know. Jay Glazer here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, let's start with Conor McGregor saying, thanks for the cheese, he's out. What do you make of all this, Jay?
Man, it's more than anything was business. It's kind of like, Rich, it's funny. Being, involved with mixed martial arts and UFC for a long time, a lot of what you're seeing now, you and I have seen for years in the NFL. And it's just kind of catching up here. So, it's almost like kind of liking it to guys going, that's it. I'm not showing up to camp. I'm not signing. I'm out because they're going through a dispute, right?
Right.
And usually it comes back around where, it works out, a contract extension is given or, whatever issues, like we saw like Cam Chancellor last year, right? So it's a similar thing that's going on here. It's a business thing. Do I think he's going to retire? No. What you do is you fight. You're a fighter, you fight. The guy who just beat him, Nate Diaz, said it best. After he beat Conor, he said, I'll go off, I'll take my winnings, my money, I'll do something. He said, but I'll end up being right back in the gym a couple weeks after, and I'll take another fight because the sport institutionalizes you. It was a great way. And like you've asked me a million times, like, Jay, why do you still, train with these football players and train with these, with Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture? Like, why do you do this to yourself? And I'm like, I got to. It's like I'd rather it kill me than I die from not doing it.
So what's the business thing?
Institutionalizes you.
What's the business thing that he didn't want to go train in the spots where Dana White and the UFC wanted him to do it, or what is it?
He had to do promotional stuff, and they wanted him on a certain date, and he's like, I'm in Iceland, I don't want to do it. And I think he was just trying to show him also, like, hey, I got more sway. And, the UFC is very much like the NFL, that nothing is above the brand. Nothing's above the octagon. In the NFL, nothing's above the shield. But again, it's going to go back to, if you're a fighter, man, this is what you like to do. You can't help yourself. If some guys who just look at it as a business, then yeah, they can walk away. But most of them who are true mixed martial arts fighters, they never stop. And again, we have, in our place, we got Randy Couture in here all the time. He's 53. And it's like he can't help himself.
Well, but in the NFL, though, there's no other place to ply your craft. In this world, there technically is. Could McGregor
No. You something to do with the UFC, you're with the UFC.
Okay,
That's
so
it. Yeah, he can't suddenly say I'm out and go be a free agent and go sign with another place. When you're a free agent, you can, but he's not.
So we won't be seeing him showing up with Kimbo Slice anytime soon. Is essentially what you're saying.
No, goodness, no.
Okay, so So you're expecting some point Conor McGregor will take the cheese, if you will, to use his phrase, and come back. At what point do you think that's going to happen?
That I can't tell you because there's so many inner workings there. I don't know about that. I'm just disappointed that it happened. I wanted to see him fight Nate again. For more than anything, man, I feel for Nate. Like, Conor is a cash cow. He's a moneymaker. And if you're headlining UFC 200 with him, Nate's going to make an awful lot of money. And Nate, he earned it. He deserves it. Those guys, the Diaz brothers, those guys train, with like Andre Ward and boxers that are, championship boxers. Then they train with champion Muay Thai fighters. Then they're black belts in jiu-jitsu. And they train with the best wrestlers in the world. That's what they do. And for this guy to put in all his time, to get to this point, man, I just feel for Nate that it got kind of pulled away from him because no matter who he's going to fight, he's not going to come with the same cheese as Conor McGregor.
So, Glaze, have we reached the point for Dana White in the UFC where it's gotten so big? Again, McGregor's tweet is retweeted 150,000 times, for crying out loud,
Right.
that it's gotten so big that with him and Rousey, they're creating stars that are no longer the tail wagging the dog, but the dog itself. And that Dana White has got this issue on his hands moving forward, that these are problems that I guess you want to have. Have we reached a threshold for the UFC we have yet to see?
No, I think, again, it's always, we see it in the NFL all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys are like, no, I'm walking away. You won the Super Bowl because of me. I'm not showing up again. All right, it's nothing new in sports. And the UFC is now, they're getting to a point where they're superstars now, and you're going to have a lot of the same type of issues as you go forward. The only the amazing thing is, like I said, how many things I see that are the same. And my best friend in this business is Michael Strahan. For the first 4 years of his career, man, Mike was nothing. He wasn't anything. He moved his position. And then going into year 5, Deacon Jones had a talk with him and said, man, you don't play football, you fight. And it changed who he was. And then all of a sudden, boom, Strahan gets 15 and a half sacks, gets paid, never looks back. Well, all of a sudden, the same people for the first 4 years of his career that he and I'd be out, and we see these people didn't give him a time of day. All of a sudden, they're trying to sit at our dinner table offering him jeans company, record labels, rap labels, strawberry picking fields, which I'm actually not joking about. And it was a great education for me to see the vultures come out and see how people are. And then all of a sudden, 15 years later, my friends, and like I said, Chuck Liddell and Randy Couture, Chuck was making, he fought in the jungles of Brazil with this netting on the bottom of the boxing ring with bare knuckle for $1,000 and then $3,000 whoever wins a 30-minute round. And all of a sudden, boom, he's making millions and millions of dollars. And I saw the same exact thing happen. All these people who were just, who the hell is your guy with the weird haircut and the Chinese letters tattooed in his head? All of a sudden, wow, it's Chuck Liddell. Let me offer him this. Let me offer, and all the same thing. And the same education I got from Stray, I'm trying to help my friends in MMA. So I think now that it gets mainstream and gets bigger and bigger, you're going to see a lot of the same issues you see in the NBA and NFL. And when these guys' careers took off, it's like all of a sudden some of these guys who are fighters are living the life of a first-round draft pick. Going through the same stuff with family and friends, and it's a pretty interesting education. It's interesting for me to see because I've seen it in another sport. Now I'm seeing the same exact thing happen. I should be a sociologist, Rich. That's what I see.
Well, you already are, Glaze. Let's not kid each other. Let's move on to the NFL right now. Based on everything that we're seeing right now, the Rams should know who the first-round selection will be to start off the draft, but they're kicking the tires on Goff and Wentz this week. Do you think the Rams know who they want right now, Glaze?
I do. I think they're leaning a certain way. But the only time I really remember a team being so set and sold, no matter what it was last year. Actually, Jameis Winston. They knew they wanted him in week 12. They were in. They were fully on board, but they had to make sure that obviously they did their homework on all the other stuff. But for the most part, teams, it's incredible how many times teams pull off somebody the day of. And a couple stories I can tell you. Dallas Cowboys, when Parcells was there, it was Jeff Ireland's first draft, help him really run that. And they were taking Sean Merriman with, I think it was the 10th pick or 8th pick, whatever it was. And Merriman was the guy all along. And then Friday night, because back then it was a Saturday draft, Friday night they start, kind of a little analysis, paralysis by over-analysis, and they start kind of getting their head, well, we've heard this and this and this. Saturday morning, they call me up and said, have you heard this about Sean Merriman? I said, well, kind of go back. And all of a sudden, the morning of the draft, an hour before the first round, the guy they had pegged the whole time they pulled off of, and they went with DeMarcus Ware instead. Well, and obviously it worked out well.
Yeah.
But, they were Sean Merriman the whole way until an hour before.
So in that regard, and I know you're not in the predicting business, and it may not be the name that I'm going to ask you to say in a second, which way do you think they're leaning right now? Goff or Wentz, Jay?
Well, you're not asking me to predict. You just asked me to predict.
No. But you've also talked
to Fox Sports Radio. Bam.
This is Fox Sports Radio. Hold on, just
Yeah, but
Jay.
it's not next Thursday yet.
But you just said too, and I've heard these stories too. You know, and we got Thomas Dimitrov coming on later, and I'm sure he's got millions of stories too about it was our guy, and then not so much.
About Thomas. Is that what you're? Oh no.
So, but we're hearing everyone's saying it's Goff or Wentz. Which way do you think they're leaning? We're not holding you to it. We're not holding you to anything.
Man, it depends who you talk in that building. That's why. I think it's Goff, but here's what I'll tell you about Wentz.
Sure.
And I think that, a guy like Wentz, he didn't throw a lot of passes in college, right? But what you got to look into these quarterbacks, and what you got to look into all these players now, and teams don't do this, and I don't get why. But you got to look at him and say, I'm not going to judge him on the 3 hours or 2 hours a day he was able to work his craft in college. Okay, but now this is going to be his full-time job. Will he be this type of guy who spends 18 hours a day? Will it be, being great is a sickness, right? Will he be sick about it? Is he going to be that Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Drew Brees? You look at Drew Brees. Drew Brees has no business being as successful as he is, except he outworks everybody else. It's a sickness. Being great is lonely, right? Mm-hmm. And who is going to be that? I spent some time with Wentz last week. There is no doubt in my mind he will be that guy. No doubt whatsoever. And you see other quarterbacks, and they kind of think they're doing enough, but enough is not showing up half hour early and leaving when everybody else leaves.
Sure.
It's not enough. Or even staying an hour later. That's not enough. You got to find who is that guy that's going to be willing to put in 24/7 on this thing. And I do believe Wentz will be that guy, without a doubt.
Glaze, thanks for calling in on the show. Appreciate it. And speaking of your boy Strahan, what he has become in his post NFL career.
He's a raging jagoff.
Well, I know that's the way you feel about him deep down.
I don't like you people keep linking us. We don't even like each other.
No, I know. Well, that's what happens when you sell sandwiches with a guy. If you take a look at post NFL playing careers in pop culture, just a few leap to mind, and obviously we're throwing everything out from the FX series, but what OJ did, obviously, after his career and before all the awfulness happened.
Yes.
Frank Gifford, also, for Monday Night Football, he did morning show televisions as well. I mean,
when all said and done, Michael Strahan will be the most successful former athlete in the history of this country, I think. And here's why. We talked about that work ethic. Michael always looked at it as, again, his career changed early, and Deacon had that talk, and he just knew he had to outwork the world in everything, right?
Yeah.
He is one of the rare few who said, hey, what got me to be a star in the NFL, I'm going to use that same work ethic in life. And he's a Hall of Famer in the NFL, and most guys go, okay, I put my time in, I kind of cruise here. He doesn't. He's like, I'm going to use that same work ethic to make the rest of my dreams come true. And, he's smarter than the rest of us. He's funnier than the rest of us. He's, and this is hard. It pains me to talk so glowingly about him because he's my brother. You know that.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. But he'll be the most successful ex-athlete in the history of the country when it comes to the entertainment business. And I couldn't be more proud of him. And he really, it's incredible for me to see. Everybody, people ask me, what's the greatest moment of your career for me? I said, when I was able to present my best friend in the Hall of Fame, because it wasn't about me, it was about him, and I couldn't be more proud of what he's done.
Glaze, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. You be well, okay?
Thanks, buddy.
We'll see you down the road at Jay Glazer on Twitter.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.